Hello and welcome to the Price Academy bite-sized history video. Introducing Annie Chapman, Jack the Ripper's second victim. Annie Eliza Smith was born to Ruth Chapman and George Smith in early September 1841. Annie's father was a soldier and her parents lived in barracks together as sweethearts for 2 years until they were given permission to marry. Annie had 5 siblings and would have attended the regimental school funded by the army, which cost Annie's dad £2 a month for her to attend. Annie grew up at no fewer than 12 addresses between London and Windsor and was in close proximity to the royal family. Unfortunately, the disease Scarlet Fever struck the Smith household, and 4 of the 6 Smith children, within a space of 3 weeks, died of the illness. At the age of 15, Annie Smith went into service as a housemaid in Duke Street for an architect. Several doors down lived Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the creator of railways, bridges and tunnels. Annie's father, by his mid-40s, decided to become a valet to one of his commanding officers, and this meant they had more time to think and spare. George Smith committed suicide on the 13th of June 1863 by cutting his throat while labouring under temporary insanity. The death of his 4 children weighed heavy on his mind. The Smith family now went to live in lower middle-class Knightsbridge and were given assistance by the commanding officer whose Annie's father worked for. At the age of 27, Annie met John Chapman, who was lodging at her mother's in Knightsbridge. He was a coachman. At the age of 27 and not yet married, she could not pass up this opportunity. Here is Mr. and Mrs. Chapman in a photo that they had taken after their wedding in May 1869. They had been married at All Saints Church in Knightsbridge. Annie, the daughter of a gentleman's valet, had done well to have married a gentleman's coachman. In the first 8 years of John and Anne's marriage, the couple lived a short stroll from Pall Mall and the gates of Buckingham Palace. By 1873, they had 2 children together, both of whom Annie insisted of having photographs taken of. By 1879, John had become the head coachman to Francis Tress Barry, a gentleman of considerable wealth with a country estate in Berkshire. The family moved to the coachman's house, which was a sizable cottage, a real place to have those family photos be displayed. However, the problem was Annie Chapman was an alcoholic. Annie's family were part of the temperance movement. Her sister Miriam said, "We tried to persuade the one given to drink to give up, but over and over again she was tempted." Annie's drinking became an issue when her children started to be born with fetal alcohol syndrome or died early in infancy. The last of the Chapman children to be born suffered from paralysis. In 1882, Annie's battle with addiction came to a head when Annie's oldest daughter, aged 12, died of meningitis, with Annie not present. Annie had begun to get a reputation among the local police for public drunkenness and wandering between villages. Her sisters in 1882 put Annie in Spelt Thorne Sanitarium to dry out. For a whole year she was committed to doing so. Unfortunately, when Annie returned home to John, he had a cold and had taken a glass of hot whiskey as medicine. When he kissed his wife, the fumes were enough to reverse the year-long abstinence and she returned to old habits. Frances Barry would not tolerate Mrs. Chapman any longer and she had to leave. Her husband agreed to pay her 10 shillings a month in maintenance. Annie, or Dark Annie as she became known, ended up living in Dorset Street in Whitechapel. This was crowned the worst street in London. She was living with a man called Jack Civey. All of a sudden, her maintenance suddenly stopped in 1886. Annie needed to find out why. She walked 25 miles in 2 days to find her husband. Unfortunately, he had passed away of cirrhosis of the liver. After he died and her 10 shillings disappeared, Jack Civvy left. By 1887, Annie seemed to be suffering from TB, but attempted to make some income by selling crochet. However, she only earned enough for at least 2 or 3 nights' worth of lodging. The rest of her time she had to sleep rough. On Friday the 7th of September, Annie was seen looking ill and had no money, not even for a cup of tea. It seemed Annie had no money for lodgings and sought a place to sleep just like Polly Nichols, victim 1. It was also said that Annie had been chucked out of the Dot House at 1:45 a.m, ill and drunk, and headed to 29 Hanbury Street. As you can see from the black dot on this map, this is where 29 Hanbury Street is. And this is what 29 Hanbury Street looked like. It was 100 years old, 3 stories high, with 8 decaying rooms. As you can see from this diagram, it had lots of passageways and a stairway. It's a perfect place for sleeping rough. Did Jack the Ripper decide to kill Annie just like Polly because she was asleep and drunk? Let's have a look at Annie's death certificate. She was 47 years old at the time of her death on the 8th of September 1888. Like Polly, she also died a violent death with injuries to her throat and abdomen by a sharp instrument. This leads me to think that Jack the Ripper definitely has some anatomical knowledge and knows how to use a knife. In conclusion, we can clearly see that both Annie Chapman and Polly Nichols have similarities. They are both someone's daughter, mother, sister, wife. They weren't prostitutes, they were just down and out and had bad luck, ending up on the street through no fault of their own. Don't forget, if you like this video, to like it and subscribe to my channel, or you can follow me at Little Miss History 81 at Tanya Alex 38.